So now that I've had some time to really let sink in the fact that the state has dismissed my charges, let me put into perspective how this is all this past 2 years, and the fact that the basis of everything is and was the allegations put forth on me for the crimes that I have said since the beginning I was not guilty of. But no one wanted to listen to that. Now, at the time, I'm a 42-year-old man. Nina is a 3-year-old, precious, innocent, sweet, happy little girl that, unbeknownst to her, her world was being shooken from the core because of allegations. Now, they came on these alleged things, not knowing what I was doing. I fell right into the trap that they get you to fall into by signing a safety plan before you get a chance to talk to an attorney. Because let's get real here, folks. When CPS is standing there in front of your door, I believe there was 4 or 5 of them at this point, that first day that they came. When they're standing at your door, there was 3 police that were there. Come to find out, police are nothing more than a show of force. They really have no purpose being there. It's not that they really don't have any purpose. They have no purpose for being there other than that show of intimidation, because we all know, whether you're innocent or guilty or whatever, whenever anybody in a uniform with a badge and a gun stand there in your face and there's the potential for something to go awry and affect your freedom, we're all scared. I don't care if you're 85 years old walking down the street with a paper bag in your hand and the cops stop to just talk to you, or if you are extremely guilty of something and get stopped. Either way, you always get a nerve twitching for that. So, see, this is a show of intimidation for what they do here. They get the police to come along with them. You know, they're sitting in your face. The number one fear that you, as a parent, I would say next to your child being killed, that fear that you have day in and day out of your child. Like, I still have that with our daughter Bree. She's 23 years old, and I'm scared every second of every day, even more so now. She doesn't understand how Mary and I feel about her and how much more we want to protect and covet and hold and console and make her more protected. She doesn't get it, but we do. But I would say that that's the rally. You will say anything that you can and do whatever you have to get these people to pull out of your driveway and have your child still in your home with you. All right. I didn't know. I didn't have to agree to these things. I didn't know Mary didn't have to. We hadn't done anything wrong, but we were put into a severe intimidation situation. Going forward with that, I was put under more scrutiny by the local police department, using bail checks as their own harassment tool, or maybe not so much harassment tool as it is a show of their own, here we are, in intimidation. trying to say, hey, we know who you are. But no, you don't. You guys don't have a goddamn clue. That's why the state said, we're going to dismiss these charges, because they didn't know who I was. What they said and what they said that they saw and what they thought they saw wasn't true. But on multiple occasions, I believe it was in 20 days, I think it was 7 times I had encounters with just the Berwick Police Department. A couple times at my own home, a couple of times out and about in public. One time I was at the ATM at the local bank getting some money out, and they held me there for almost 2 hours as they ripped our truck apart and went over me with a fine-tooth comb. Most of these bail checks, majority of them, I came out unscathed. I didn't do anything wrong to have my freedoms challenged this way, or my constitutional liberties. So it was very hard for me to conform to this policy that I'd never agreed to. But not only was my freedom at risk here, but a very large purse was, because you see, I was out on well over $15,000 cash bail. And any violation on these bail checks that I would have not confined to was risking jeopardizing that purse, which was pretty much everything that we had as a family unit. And I'm thankful for my family unit for having that much faith in me to put that money up and not just leave me sitting in jail. Now, along with these things that went on here, I was put into an intense regimen of counseling. I had already been involved in counseling, as I broke my back when I was 16 years old. I was a product of the Oxy era. I had been doing these painkillers for 30 years. See, they want to... The only thing that can solve my ailment and my 3 crushed vertebrae is back surgery. And my brother, who is a very reputable and well-respected doctor, and not only the civilian community, but as well as the military community, he too shares the opinion that don't have back surgery. There's no going back. Haha, didn't mean it to be a pun like that. But there's no going back. Once you remove things from your vertebrae and they start inserting artificial things into their place, there's a lot of room for rejection. I watched my father, who had similar type injuries with his discs. They were all crushed together, so he had plastic spacers inserted in there to give him a gap to relieve that pressure off of his spine. And for the first 6 to 8 months, it was wonderful for him. But once those spacers started to dislodge and his vertebrae began to crush back, now he had not only the same dilemma he had been in, where the vertebrae were crushing his sciatica, but now he had objects unnatural to the body in the way, causing much more intense and terrible pain. So, knowing what I know about my injury, watching my father go through excruciating pain, my brother's intellect into the whole subject matter, I have chosen to stretch. I've chosen to be sure to not extenuating circumstances to put my body into that like I used to. I'm a strong son of a bitch, and I used my power and my force in the career path that I've used to make me a successful person in that, and I just know now I can't do those things anymore. So through all of these processes, I've had to subject myself to pain medication. And these pain medications were not anything for me to get high off of or use as a recreational tool, but for a tool for me to survive and provide for my family. And that is exactly that is it. So I went through all of this time of these pain medications, through them taking them away, going through different ups and downs, and as the doctors and the pharmacists were figuring out how these pain medications were messing with people, well, there were people like myself that were actually living this reality. And it's a pure hell. So in this, I've always found counseling and meetings, not because I abused these substances, but because there's such a fine line and a slippery slope that goes with it, that to have a support system in place in case of a misuse or a collapse in the common sense rhythms of using your medications, or had I gotten addicted and the addiction got away from me or whatever, I already had in place a system, and I always had. Now, when CPS showed up, I didn't feel that it was any of their business, nor did my doctor, who I was in treatment with, Dr. Sachetti. He didn't want to submit to them. He did not want them to have any information, because he didn't feel it was any of their business neither. He was willing to tell them as little and as much, as little as much, I guess. He was just, yes, Darren's in treatment. Yes, Darren passed urine screens. Yes, I have faith in Darren, and that's it. There was no reason to go into detail or my history with them, according to him, nor according to myself. These are personal items that I hold sacred in my body. Now, I'm not saying I treat my body as a temple. However, the secrets that are contained inside of my body are that for me, and the Constitution allows me to keep those secrets safe inside of myself without illegal search and seizures, at least to a degree, and at least to a degree now. So there was another faux pas by this CPS machine, as they now made me close the door of a doctor who had been treating me for years. I was actually his first patient. And then they made me switch to a counseling service which now couldn't handle medication management, which could not do the things that Dr. Sacchetti was doing. His overall job as my physician, he could act as my doctor as he seen fit, prescribing me blood pressure meds, and because I have high blood pressure and all this stuff. He was an active prescriber for me. So now they take me out of something that's been good, that's prevented me from falling down a slippery slope. And mind everyone too that this is all during COVID. All right, I have paperwork and documents that say be sure that you load up on any and all resources of your medicines, because we're not sure what's going to happen here. And where store hours and pharmacies and doctors' offices and drug dealers and all of these things where everybody was high risk, you did what you had to do. You grabbed what you could and you locked it away, because we didn't know what was going to happen during COVID at the beginning. It was a very scary time. So to prevent unnecessary contact with others, the CDC suggested that you stockpile, whether you were an illegal drug user or whether you were a prescribed pharmaceutical user, that you stockpile everything that you could and put it away. Because there was a chance of unknowns and unknown answers. So you see, now CPS is coming to my home. It made me leave a doctor that I was comfortable with, that was willing to work with me, that could handle my med management circumstances, to put me into a general counseling service which could not provide these resources for me. And at the time I didn't have insurance, so when Dr. Sacchetti was working with me, that was between him and I. Now I had been thrown into an unknown world and uncharted territory, in a place where it's very difficult to get into a new doctor, to get into a new anything, a new whatever. Now, it states in their main policy that if you are currently receiving treatment during the onset of a CPS investigation, then they're to move along. Why didn't they move along? But they'll say that they had me contractually. I didn't know any better. I had no idea what I was getting into. All I knew was that Nina was at home and she was with her mom and I. Now, the circumstances weren't ideal. They had made me move and made me leave. I was staying with my mom, and I had a schedule. I had to see Nina, but she was still home, still with us.